Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to the Fort Salem Library, where we read you your fanfiction. So sit down or don't, relax or don't, and enjoy these stories in a way you have not before. We at Fort Salem Library do not own Motherland Fort Salem or any of the related characters. The Motherland Fort Salem series is created by Elliot Lawrence and owned by Freeform. This story is a work of fanfiction and is meant for entertainment only. We are not making any profit from these stories. All rights of the original Motherland Fort Salem story belong to Freeform. We also do not own Bird Undead or any of its original characters and storylines. We did, however, get permission from the author to read their story. This story was created and written by the avid reader _ sometimes writer, and you can find the link in our show notes. This story is being read to you by Angela.
Bird Undead, Chapter 9, Two Legs. Abigail remembers their first stop in flashes. She had been pulled from her sleep by the landing in Bulgaria, and then again at the noise and bright lights that flooded into the cargo bay as the ramp went down once they'd been parked. Rael only groans in protest at the light, and buries her face further against the taller witch's neck and shoulder, but doesn't give any other signs of alertness beyond that. The blaster blinks blarily at the blurred forms that move around the bay, some coming and some going, but none of it makes much sense to her sleep-addled brain. They're loading a few things we agreed to bring to Greenland, since we'll be stopping there for our other refuel anyway, Bellwether. Nothing to worry about, it has no effect on our timetable. And Acastia's voice from her left offers an explanation, and it draws her attention to the still half-fuzzy form of the older witch, where she's leaning casually against the strut beside her. Abigail nods slowly, before a yawn wrenches her jaw apart and she settles back against the netting, like she had done initially. She hears a familiar seed vibrate out from the sergeant at a lower frequency while she closes her eyes and slips back into sleep, absently noting the gradually growing absence of noises around her, even as the loading process continues. Rael is the reason she wakes up at their second stop, but it's at the tail end of it, and she only starts to wake up as the bay doors are closing again, and the engines are firing back up. The blonde's attempt to draw her out of sleep are relaxed and gentle, but she finds herself reflexively scanning her eyes around for threats anyway. "What's up, shitbird?" Abigail wonders in a sleepy rasp, now noticing that the hand in hers is still there while she rubs at her eyes and face with her free one. "Someone made a food run in Greenland, and your stomach rumbles like a thunderstorm, Bells. It woke me up." The fixer teases with a grin as she hands over a longer sandwich than the first, but still wrapped in tinfoil. The taller witch only chuckles and gently shoves her shorter counterpart with her shoulder in response. Neither wants to unlink their hands, but it's necessary to unwrap their subs to eat. This time, they eat at a much more regular pace, absently noticing that some of the others around them are also still working on their own sandwiches or bags of chips. "Here," and Acacia comes over to join them as soon as their ascent has leveled out. She offers them each a bottle of water and sits down on the other side of the strut to Abigail's right. "Thanks," Rael accepts, and the blaster nods her agreement since her mouth is full and her high Atlantic etiquette stops her from trying to talk through it. She can bend the rules for many things, and she has definitely started to, thanks to the influence of the girl at her left side. But Abigail Bellwether will never ever be caught breaking that particular one. There's still time to rest more if you need. We've been making good time, so we should be touching down in Massachusetts in about 5 hours at approximately 0730 Eastern Standard Time. That puts us back in Salem by 0800 at the latest. Your mother will be meeting us as soon as we arrive, Bellwether. She's been anxious for our return since your incredible survival was reported. I don't know what's going to happen after that. I know General Alder wants you two debriefed as soon as possible, and she wants to be present for it. We'll have to see." The sergeant briefs the two, quietly, as they finish eating. "Petra Bellwether? Anxious? That I'd pay to see. I didn't think she even knew what that word actually meant in practice." The blaster snorts incredulously, but some part of her is secretly touched by the knowledge. That's the best word I have for it, the older witch shrugs, observing her reaction curiously. The unit leader only huffs at that, taking the balled up tinfoil from her companion again and tucking both into the same pocket of her strike pants as the first pair of tinfoils. Thank you, by the way, for the silencing seat in Bulgaria, Abigail says genuinely, looking over at Anacostia when she's resecured the pocket flap closed again. You both were exhausted and need as much rest as I can let you get, since I have no idea what will be waiting for you once we're back. Plus, you are still technically my cadets, which makes you my responsibility. And clearly, someone needs to look out for your unit. You can't even go one mission without all hell breaking loose somehow. I blame Collar. The sergeant brushes it off, her tone becoming teasing, but that fondness doesn't leave her eyes as she watches them both. Oh, I second that. It was 100% Collar's fault. The taller of the two younger witches laughs playfully. Hey! Why does it always have to be my fault? Rael exclaims with a mirthful indignation while she crosses her arms and bumps her shoulders against her unit mates. Because you're the shitbird. And because you're the one who took off your damn battle charm to give to that kid. The blaster grins warmly in answer. I said it once. I'll say it again, Bells. It is not my fault that the Camarilla dude decided I have such a stabbable back. I actually prefer taking my body free of the church's influence if I can help it. The blonde huffs with a half smirk. Shit at what now? And what church influence? Anacostia wonders incredulously. You know, holy? The fixer answers with a proud smirk at her own pun. You're the worst. That was bad, Collar. And yes, Rael gave her battle charm to a scared little Tarim boy, and then proceeded to get herself stabbed in the same spot it's usually pinned to not a full minute later. Abigail groans, shoving in the smaller witch and responding to the first question. That was just dumb luck. Rael counters, still smiling while their sergeant just blinks at them both wordlessly. Yeah, well, as soon as you get it back, you're never allowed to take it off again, like, ever. I'll find a way to stick it to you permanently if I need to. I swear, shitbird, not ever. Seriously. I didn't believe in battle charms before, but I do now. The taller of the two warns sternly. Okay, yes ma'am, never taking off the pin again, got it. The blonde relents Cecily, but her eyes soften, and her hands finds its way back into the blasters, squeezing reassuringly to show she understands. Good. Abigail nods, a stiffness she hadn't felt form in her shoulder melting away again as she squeezes back. You all are going to give me wrinkles, Anacostia sighs, shaking her head with a half smile. Yeah, but that's only because you like us. We're your favorites, Sarge. The fixer responds cheekily, her blue eyes glittering. Nonsense. I trade too many young witches to even have favorites anymore. I'm getting too old for that sort of foolishness. The sergeant scoffs, crossing her arms, but Abigail sees right through it, and Rael does too. They'll let her have it. They each have their own prides, and this is clearly part of the older witches. But that doesn't erase the fact that while the words were a dismissal of the idea, they weren't a denial of the first part of the blonde statement. Anacostia does have a soft spot for them, and their unit as a whole, but the fixer especially for some reason. Abigail has noticed it in flashes, both before and after City Drop, even if she was a part of the team that stole Rael away in the night to torture Scylla with. The older witch was firm for the most part, but there was a gentleness to her with how she handled the blonde when she thought no one was looking. She had seen it in the memories she had gotten from linking with her companion while she tried to fix her in the woods. The words their sergeant had given Tally and Rael before they headed to the transport. Even long before that, in the snippets of a memory from a conversation between the two at some point in the beginning of basic training, before she and Rael had shaken on peace but not friendship, before she'd let them duke it out on the floor of the pits, like she knew that had been what they'd need to get where they are. It was what made Abigail finally forgive her for her part in the smaller witch's breakdown the morning of City Drop in the first place, and told her something much more important. Anacostia Quartermain is one of the few people she trusts not to screw her over, And more importantly, one of the only people she trusts with the safety of her shitbird, because the sergeant has seen and understood Rael's demon too. She had recognized it before Abigail herself had. Whatever you say, Rael shrugs finally, her words followed by a yawn. Abigail can tell that her companion has started to wear out what little energy she's managed to regain with the banter, and she can feel her own exhaustion starting to creep back in as well. Get some rest, privates. There's still over 4 hours to go, and barely 11 hours of sleep does not make up for almost a week out in the wild with such serious injuries and no supplies. And Ancastia tells him softly, not moving from her spot, but reclining back against the netting herself and relaxing her posture with her arms crossed over her chest comfortably. It's clear the older witch is also going to try to nap, which is a good plan as far as Abigail is concerned. Lay down, Rael. The taller of the two mutters just loud enough for the blonde to hear while she tugs gently at the arm of the hand she holds. 1 sec. The fixer agrees, taking off her new strike jacket and folding it up inside out into a neat square before setting it in the blaster's lap. Abigail gets the idea and halts her from moving while she takes off her own new jacket. Okay, go ahead, she nods, tugging at pale arm again. The smaller witch doesn't need to be told twice and scoots her hips down the seats to be able to fully lay on her side with her head landing comfortably on the jacket in her counterpart's lap, facing out into the cargo bay. The taller of the two waits patiently for her to wiggle and settle into the most comfortable position she can find before draping her own jacket over Rael, the fabric easily blanketing her from her shoulders to nearly her knees. Thanks, Evs. The blonde yawns tiredly, her eyes already drooping closed again as she rubs her cheek against the soft inner texture of the folded jacket. Anything for you, shitbird, the blaster murmurs only half-jokingly in answer, her left hand running mindlessly up and down her companion's upper arm through the jacket, while her right starts to cart its fingers through the soft blonde locks. She feels as much as she hears the fixer's contented sigh, while a warm hand comes to settle against the top of her knee. Abigail tilts her head back against the netting, waiting, listening, and not able to fully relax to let sleep come for her again until she hears Rael's breathing slow and deepen and feels her small frame become limp and heavy in its unconsciousness. Her hands stilling and her fingers gently tangling into silken hair is the last thing she's aware of when the bliss of rest pulls her under its hold again.
Please find the fanfiction you just listened to on Archive of Our Own and leave the author some love. Without them, this wouldn't be possible, and we want to thank them from the bottoms of our hearts for creating these amazing stories and keeping the show alive.